Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. This is the WRDN Morning Farm Report. I'm Brian Winnekins, and joining us this morning is Steve Peterson with Wisconsin Rural Partners, and we are going to talk about the Wisconsin Rural Partners Virtual Rural Summit. And it's coming up May 5th through June 2nd. It's a 5-week type of event with weekly sessions. And thank you to our newsmaker sponsors, including Wisconsin Farmers Union, A&J Agronomy, Synergy Co-op, Osteoplastics, Annabis Silo, Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, and Compeer Financial. And Steve, well, thank you for joining us. It's great that the summit's coming back after the 1-year hiatus.
Yeah, COVID kind of put a crink in our work, just like everybody else's. But we had hoped that we could have done this in person in 21, but obviously we couldn't because April is still not safe enough for everybody to come out. So we did the next thing better, and we did the virtual Rural Summit, which now looking at the activity that we've had for people that are registering all across the state of Wisconsin, it's probably going to be just as good, if not better, than if we did it in person, because now everybody's got access and they don't even have to leave their office or their home to do it.
So we're doing this over 5 weeks. So we're going to have one session each week. Is that how that'll work?
Right. Every Wednesday starting May 5th, and then the 12th, the 19th, the 26th, and we finish up with our fifth session on June 2nd. So every Wednesday will be our virtual summit session, and it'll run from 12 noon till 2 p.m. It'll be fully interactive with a lot of our speakers with Q&A. We'll also have this available on our YouTube channel after the summit is over, so people will be able to access that, plus all the presentations as well. So we're really excited about having this because of the topics that we brought in, and the amount of speakers that we brought in is substantial.
So let's run down the topics for the event on May 5th, talking about housing. This is something, if you want to try and find a house around Western Wisconsin, good luck.
Well, and as you know, Brian, we hear so much about affordable housing or workforce housing. Well, we want everybody to think differently about housing because they always think it's got to be a new house, or, we're going to be talking about some success stories and how you can leverage your community for housing. And it could even be, say, transitional living. We see a lot of our boomers now that are retroing their houses for the needs that they have to have as they're growing older because they don't want to leave their hometown. And there's not a transitional housing center that's in their hometown. So instead of leaving, they're retroing their house, which again could devaluate a little bit because if somebody's going to move in with a family after that, then they've got to retro it back into what it was before they put the railings and the ramps and all the other things in there. And in some cases, you see some families that are, or a couple that are just shutting off the upstairs or the basement that they're not even utilizing at all, which of course doesn't help with the value of the house either. So there'll be different things we'll be talking about, but we're not just talking about programs that are being offered by the state and the federal governments. We're talking about actual activities that have been proven to work with communities, so you can roll your sleeves up and get going with housing right away, whether it's a study, whether it's trying to finish off a subdivision, transitional housing, affordable housing, workforce housing. It's all going to be covered, but it's going to show you how can I get my community engaged so we can move it forward and not just talk about it at meetings all the time.
Talking with Steve Peterson with Wisconsin Rural Partners, or Wisconsin Rural Partners Virtual Summit. It's a 5-week summit with a session each week, May 5th through June 2nd. On May 12th, talking about an idea-friendly town. Tell us about that.
Well, Deb Brown is going to be our speaker, and she's going to run the whole 2-hour session. And she, along with Becky, her business partner, have a company called Save Your Town, and they go all over the United States and do sessions and training small town communities on the struggles that you would have when you've got your small town, whether it's your budgets or whether you can get organizations and individuals working together and getting things done. And she was going to be our keynote speaker for the summit, but now she'll be just doing 2 of our 5 sessions. But the Becoming an Idea Friendly Town, Brian, is basically, a lot of our communities have their heart in the right place, but they can't get something moving forward. So what do? We have meetings upon meetings upon meetings, and then we have meetings about meetings and to plan meetings. And at the end of the year, you look at each other and you really didn't accomplish anything. So she's getting you taught how you can become an idea friendly town and move past just sitting there and talking in meetings, but actually getting the steps in place to move forward and see some positive results.
Now, Deb's also going to host the next event on May 26th, community building in your small town. And we see this in a lot of small towns, trying to get volunteers, like volunteers for like a community event, or just, the Lions Club or anything like that. So is that one of the things she's going to try to talk about?
Yeah, she is. And, we also see a lot of this, especially in small communities. You've got people that are very territorial about things in their community. They don't like working well with others, and they don't share. So she's going to give you tips on how you can overcome those divisions between people or organizations, or even the community versus your city government, and how to be unified and get things going together. And there could be some existing projects that maybe are doing okay, but maybe could be enhanced and grown, and that helps bring people together too. So she's going to give you examples, and I know because she's told me she's going to really test the people that are on the call for the session about, well, what are your struggles and what's your biggest hurdle and what did you do about it? Did you do anything? So she's going to be one that's going to ask questions and put people on task a little bit to come clean about the things that they've had struggles with in their communities, and she's going to use it as almost like a case study. So that'll be a very popular session too, because we've all, whether regardless of how small a community or rural area you have, we always have those territorial and those divisions between people and entities that you got to try to overcome.
Talking with Steve Peterson with Wisconsin Rural Partners. So we're talking about the Virtual Rural Summit. That'll be a 5-week weekly sessions every Wednesday, May 5th through June 2nd. Coming up then on May 19th. Oh, this is a topic that COVID-19 really showed was needed: broadband, and broadband in our backyard. And how can we finally get everyone all hooked up? It's kind of a puzzle, Steve, because there's a lot of smaller co-ops like 24/7 and West Wisconsin Telecom and NTech. They have all of the broadband already installed, but if you're not part of one of those co-ops, you're kind of out of luck. And that's where trying to find a way to make this happen.
Well, and you have everybody pointing fingers to the other party and saying, well, they're the problem, or they're the ones that we're having issues with that we can't get moving forward. So we knew this session could probably have been 5 sessions in a row, just because the topic is so big and so complicated. But I think we're going to do a really good job in this session, because we're going to be talking about how some organizations and some counties have actually done it in their own backyards. So you're not going to hear about, well, here's what you should try. They're going to tell you about all the struggles they went through and the success stories they had. And it's whether it's a small community like Boulder Junction, or maybe it's a county like Taylor or Wood or Kewaunee County. The counties association is going to be involved, but that's going to be a real eye opener, I think, for people, because these people got it done, and they did it and made it work, and they're having great successes. And then, of course, you mentioned about with COVID and how big of an effect that had, not just on the communities, but of course the school system. So we've got Kirk Kiefer from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction joining us, along with Jaron McCallum, who's just moved into this position with the Public Service Commission. And they're going to be talking about the data that they've gathered, and also the mapping that we'll see across the state, where there's the pockets of needing help, where there's some strong broadband, how can we connect everything together so we've got consistency in areas. So that'll be an important part of the session as well. And then what better than to bring in two providers so they can talk about how do you work with your provider, because the providers might be easier to work with than what you think. You've just got to ask the right questions, and you've got to approach them in the right way about how you can partner together. And Jim Costello from Lynx Networks and Steve Schneider from Bug Tussle Wireless will be giving you tips on that. And then, of course, the big one that always seems to be the stumbling block, Brian, is funding and grants sources. A lot of people want things, but how are we going to pay for it? Well, we're going to have some examples, and PSC is going to be involved too, about sources that you can apply for, whether it's grants, maybe it's matching funds, maybe it's just how do I write a successful funding application. And we're going to give you the how-to on that. And there's a lot of local matching that's available out there that's already been used by some counties and regions, and we're going to explain all that as well.
Talking with Steve Peterson with Wisconsin Rural Partners. Again, the Wisconsin Rural Partners Virtual Rural Summit coming up. It'll be a 5-week session, weekly sessions on Wednesdays, May 5th through June 2nd. And then on June 2nd, Steve, wrapping up rural success as well, and how some of those success stories have been developed, and got a pretty good group of people that you're going to be chatting with.
Yeah, we do, and we're proud to say there are a lot of our winners from our past Top Rural Development Initiative awards that we've been doing for quite a few years now. So we've kind of revisited some of the winners and say, okay, well, where are you now? Because a lot of these programs that were, say, award winners in 2017, 18, and 19 have now taken it to the next level. It wasn't like I won an award, wasn't that great, and then nothing ever happens again. So a lot of these programs are still growing and still seeing successes. We wanted to touch on childcare because we know how important that is in the area, especially early childcare. So we've got the Wisconsin Early Education Shared Services Network, which was a consortium of counties, Monroe County, Vernon County, churches got involved, the hospitals got involved. It was really quite the program when they won the award. And now it's expanded from just those two counties. So there's 9 counties, 7 of them that are rural that have taken up that program and are doing very well with it. And then we're going to be talking about community vitality. How do you keep the energy level going up in your community? So we'll hear a great success story from Bailey's Harbor and how they analyzed themselves. They took a look at themselves in the mirror and were honest enough to say, here are some of the things we need to do to get better as a community, and it's worked out really well. And then we're also spotlighting the Grantsford Revitalization operation, which they basically found a blighted area, and instead of having all these different experts and consultants come in and tell them what to do, they decided to just start their own GRO, and they did the housing for individuals, and they took that blighted area, and now it's a real strong part of their whole revitalization of the Grantsburg community. So you'll hear about that as well. And then we're wrapping up with a couple of state programs. A lot of people have heard about the Rural Wisconsin Initiative, and O'Brien, you've had legislators on talking about that. That's one of those hot buttons that everybody's enthused about because rural is the hot button. And even though COVID has kind of gone away, it really put that in a drawer for a while because there was nothing going on in Madison. So Representative Nancy Vandermeer from the 70th district and Representative Dave Armstrong from the 75th district are going to be talking about how they're bringing it back at the Capitol now and having both sides of the legislature taking a look at it. It's bipartisan, and that initiative needs to be back up and running again. And they're going to be working hard on that and telling us what their plans are. And then we're kind of the first place that Marcy West, who's now the new director for the Governor's Blue Ribbon Commission on Rural Prosperity, she's going to be joining us to talk about what the Blue Ribbon Commission is doing off of the report that they compiled. And she's got a lot of history in our area because she was executive director of the Kickapoo Reserve for 23 years. So we're excited to have Marcy West joining us and getting more information about rural prosperity.
So folks can still register, and how can they register?
Well, all you can do is go to our website at wiruralpartners.org. And right on the homepage, you just click on the Virtual Rural Summit button. It'll show you everything as far as the agenda of what I talked about. It'll also recognize all our sponsors that are helping us put this on and making it affordable. Registration is very easy. You can register online. You can pay by credit card or by check. It's $60 for the entire 5 sessions or $15 per session. So we're doing that. Have we got a great deal for you today? You can get all 5 sessions for $60, which means you kind of get one session for free. But we also know that people's time is very valuable, and they might not be able to make all 5 sessions. So you can do a 3-pack, you can do a 2-pack, you can do a singular. It's very easy for whatever you want. Maybe there's a topic that piques your interest, but maybe there's some that aren't. So you can a la carte across the board as well. And the nice thing too, Brian, is say you missed the May 5th session, you can register for the next week's session in between the May 5th and the 12th session. So anytime during the week, say somebody was on that May 5th session and said, wow, this was great. I really sorry I missed it. You still can go in and register for the other sessions throughout the rest of the time. So it's very, very easy to use. And once you're registered, you'll get an email prior to the summit with your login and password code. And you just log in on your virtual Zoom broadcast and you're in.
Simple as that. Again, it's the Wisconsin Rural Partners Virtual Rural Summit A lot of great information for all of our rural communities. Again, this will be a 5-week session every Wednesday, May 5th through June 2nd. And you can just visit their website for more information. That's Steve Peterson with Wisconsin Rural Partners. You're listening to the WRDN Morning Farm Report.